Hello everybody, welcome to Bitcoin Not Crypto. I'm Forrest Total on X and Twitter, and today I'm going to be going through 21 predictions by the user at BranBTC. I think his name's Brandon Green. He runs the Bitcoin conference, and he made these predictions on Twitter, and he also talked about them on the live stream for the 100K New Year's Eve party. And I figured I would go through these, talk about my own personal thoughts about these, and yeah, I think they're interesting predictions. A lot of people have made predictions. I even made predictions for the year 2025, and it'd be interesting to compare mine to his, in my opinion. Before I get into this, though, I want to tell you guys about Bitcoin Well, which is where I buy all of my own Bitcoin. They're a non-custodial exchange, which means they never hold your Bitcoin for you. You send them money, they send you Bitcoin directly to your cold wallet or on the Lightning Network, and they have the lowest spread at 1.2%. They also have non-KYC options, and they're available in the US and Canada. The first one here, I'll pull up on screen. The US creates the Bitcoin strategic stockpile. 10 plus other nations announce theirs by the end of year. The new space race begins. Now, I think that this is possible. I think there's a high likelihood that the USA creates a Bitcoin strategic stockpile, at least moving over the seized Bitcoin into a sort of treasury type position. 10 other nations, highly likely as well. We already have 2 that are very open and public about it. Or that we know about. El Salvador and Bhutan, yes, they're small nations, but it does count. And maybe 8 other, I could easily see that, easily. So I think that this is definitely possible. Number 2 here, GPTC gets acquired, ETF consolidation. I wonder about that. I don't see how that would really happen. I think, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about the ETF business, like who can acquire the business of an ETF. GPTC has this pretty high rate for Bitcoin ETFs, and so they're like a profitable business as an ETF, if that makes sense. They get acquired, so there's some ETF consolidation. I would say probably no on GBTC actually getting acquired. There being some ETF consolidation, perhaps, but this could just happen by people exiting GBTC, which is what's happened, and then moving over to lower fee Bitcoin ETFs. That's kind of more what I see. I don't see this one happening personally in the year 2025. USA ASIC chip fabrication becomes a major focus. Major focus is maybe a bit of a broad term. How major of a focus is it talked about all the time? Like, chip manufacturing is very important. I think ASIC chip manufacturing is like this niche thing. I think if Bitcoin becomes really important in the global scene, then yes, ASICs will be talked about a lot, and the chip fabrication. I do think that there will be more US centric manufacturers of ASICs. I think probably we'll see Intel dip their toes in more, maybe NVIDIA. I almost said NVIDIA. And yeah, I think that we will see more North American, US-based ASIC manufacturing. The first Bitcoin bond still doesn't happen, but we get closer to seeing it. First Bitcoin bond. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to here. There's an article by cryptonews.net, world's first Bitcoin denominated bond is launched. I guess this doesn't count because he's saying that those aren't what, that has already happened. The Bitcoin bonds, the volcano bond in El Salvador. I'm not sure exactly what he means by this, to be honest. So I'm just going to move on from that. If you guys want to elaborate on that, if you have some idea what specifically he is talking about with the first Bitcoin bond, cool, check it out. Number 5 here, we see our first 20K green candle. In 2024, we saw our first 10K green candle. I think this is totally possible, right? This is if we have a major bull market like we could see happen this year, then yeah, a 20K green candle will happen. Number 6, the bull market extends beyond December 31st. So this is kind of calling for a break in the cycle. This is calling for an extended or bull market, and probably in that also a muted bear market. Bull market extends beyond December 31st. This is a pretty bold statement or declaration. I don't know. I don't see that happening. I think that we're going to kind of top off and kind of grind sideways and down for quite a while. And I wouldn't call that a bull market. That ends up being more like a crab market, as people call it. USA cuts interest rates to near zero and restarts QE. That is interesting. I don't know if we'll see it. I think they want to because their debt load is so high, but I don't think the bond market is responding well to these cuts. They seem to be in control now, and the FOMC or the Fed, central bank, they seem to not be able to really affect the interest rates as much as they would like to, because everybody is kind of seeing through and saying, hey, this inflation is a problem. It's making a comeback. The debt is a problem. We need to keep rates higher because things are still pretty strong in the market. I think they will inevitably cut or begin cutting the interest rates pretty rapidly. And like they already have been cutting it fairly rapidly. QE definitely coming back in. I don't think we're going to see near zero. I think we're going to see lower, and a lot of the refinancing of the short-term debt that has been issued over the past few years will be refinanced at higher rates, which will cause strain and more quantitative easing basically because of that. China, desperate for growth, goes all in on crypto and Bitcoin, in brackets here, but more crypto. This is kind of interesting. I think that China took a big L back in the day because they're a tyrannical kind of government that dictates what is allowed and what isn't. And they saw that Bitcoin was a way for their citizenry to exit out of the Chinese market, to sell their currency and to buy something global and to escape from that tyranny. And they saw it as a real threat, which it, of course, is a real threat to something like that, which is amazing. It's great that it's a threat to that. So desperate for growth. I mean, yeah, maybe, and more on the crypto side, except that the crypto side is full of absolute scams and ridiculous stuff that is not very valuable. Maybe some of that tech stuff, they'll treat it more like tech startups, and China will be front running some of that or initiating some of these tech startups with kind of blockchain or some kind of crypto technology built underneath them. But a lot of that will go to zero. I think it's a big bet for any nation to get into anything besides Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is just a clear winner. If China goes all in on crypto, then they're going to have problems later on down the line because a lot of that will turn out to just be dust. Vitalik Buterin gives up on ETH as money, admits Bitcoin has won. This is supposed to happen in 2025, Brandon says. I don't know if he really talks about ETH as money that much. They're a decentralized smart contract platform with high fees. They're not ultrasound money. They switch up their narratives all the time, but they used to call themselves sort of like the global computer network. Then they became ultrasound money, which is ridiculous. They're not at all sound money. They're completely centralized. I plan on making some videos about the Ethereum Classic fork, the DAO that got hacked, which showcases that they will never be sound money ever. And gives up on ETH as money. I think I think they probably have already. They will just kind of not talk about that. They're not trying to compete with Bitcoin. They are pretending like they're not competing with Solana and these other, super fast, super cheap, super liquid chains for doing meme coins on and smart contracts and things that nobody cares if it works all the time or not, or how decentralized it is. I think those have won because they're completely not competing with what Bitcoin is. More importantly in here, the narrative, in my opinion, that will change on ETH is that it's one of the big players, one of the safe havens for a long-term hold. Yeah, like obviously Bitcoin, get yourself some Bitcoin and get yourself some ETH and just hold those for the long term. That's what a lot of people still prescribe to. They talk about ETH in the same realm as Bitcoin for a long-term hold, but it is completely bleeding out to Bitcoin as a long-term hold if you compare their charts or if you price ETH in Bitcoin. And I think it will continue to do so because they have a fundamental problem where they're competing in this realm where nobody cares about decentralization. And the decentralization makes ETH more expensive. And there's these layer twos which take the money and value out of the layer ones. And they are basically the more used. I mean, there's just this fundamental problem with ETH where the more it's used, the more expensive it becomes, which incentivizes the users to switch over to either layer twos, which takes value out of ETH, or to completely other chains, which takes value out of ETH. So it hits this equilibrium where it cannot go higher in value because it becomes too expensive to use it. So it has this automatic incentive cap built into it. And I think the more people will realize that, the less people will use it as a store of value, which it is not suited to be, and the more money will be taken out of that, which lowers the value of ETH. I think in the long term, ETH is not a hold at all. I think it's one of the worst holds long term. I think you'll just see your money get eaten away, especially compared to Bitcoin. Maybe not compared to the dollar. I don't know 100% about that. I don't think the dollar's the worst shitcoin out there. Bitcoin 2025 in Vegas has over 5,000 attendees. I have no information that could validate this or not. I don't know what the size could be. I don't know. Who knows? 11 here, free Ross day one. Let's hope so. I hope for that guy's freedom. I think it's completely unjust, the sentence that has been handed down to him. I think he has served his time for the illegal activity that he has done. And I think that what he has done for Bitcoin has been wonderful. So I think that he deserves to be free, 100%. Bitcoin hits 500K. I think it'll go higher, but lots of variables. Yeah, 500K is sort of my high end of the bull case that I had in my prediction for 2025. If it hits 500K, it's probably going to be going a lot higher. I think the cycle probably starts to break. I think this is possible, but I think that this, I would not prescribe to this. I think that maybe he's being a bit bullish. Maybe. I don't know. New Bitcoin villains emerge. I won't say names. EVSBL. I'm gonna look that up. I don't know that abbreviation. Let's see. Yeah, I couldn't find anything on that abbreviation. If anybody knows what that is, let me know. New Bitcoin villains emerged. Yeah, I could definitely see this. There will be some villains, some finger pointing, because if Bitcoin if Bitcoin hits 500K, there's going to be a lot of people saying, hey, this is totally unfair. Why do all these people have so much money? Actually, I had a friend talk to me about Bitcoin, and they said, well, why do these people who are these people that bought Bitcoin so early, that got in when it started, and they've made 250,000 times gains? Like, it seems really unfair. Who are these people? What are they doing? And if I get in now, what am I going to 2x, 3x? Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem fair. And that's such an interesting way to look at it, in my opinion, because Bitcoin has changed so much since then. There were super fundamental risks at the beginning, and there's still fundamental risks now, right? There's still risks, and the risks get taken out every 10 minutes, every day, every hour, every year. There becomes less risk in Bitcoin. But that is to be said that, people will create villains out of just your average Bitcoiner probably, but some bigger Bitcoiners or certain types of Bitcoiners will become villainized, I think, into the future. Number 14 here, Bitcoin mining stocks go on a run. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it costs a lot of money. It's a very infrastructure intense, dictated by the rates they can get on warehousing and electricity. It's a terrible business, the mining industry. I think. But yeah, I mean, they hold a lot of Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin mining stocks that hold Bitcoin will perform really well, obviously, in a bull run, whereas the ones that sell and kind of upgrade constantly, or pay out or whatever, they sell their Bitcoin they mine. I think those ones will seriously underperform the ones that hold in a bull market. I mean, that's just obvious though. Bitcoin on-chain fees hit all-time highs in dollar terms. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we had an all-time high hit on Bitcoin on-chain fees at the halving. Everybody wanted their transaction in the halving block, so that hit all-time highs. Yeah, maybe we could see that again. It would have to be a lot more organic. That was sort of like an event that people wanted and forced their way into those things, and were paying really high fees to be in that. We've seen really high fees as well because of ordinals, because of runes. Yeah, it's possible, but I think we'll see a lot more adoption of these layer 2s on Bitcoin, which don't put a lot of fees onto the on-chain Bitcoin. Just when the channels get opened or closed, that happens. So I think this one might be a bust, in my opinion. Coinbase gets acquired by a GSIB. So that stands for Global Significantly Important Bank. Coinbase getting acquired by them, I think that's an interesting idea. They're a public company. I mean, public companies do get acquired. They're fairly small in market cap, somewhere around like 50 billion. I mean, it's a big company, but there's much bigger banks than that. There's much bigger companies that would be interested in acquiring something like Coinbase. They've cornered a lot of the retail, but they also have a huge amount of the custodianship. So they're sort of like institutionally important. So that's an interesting idea. I think that banks will acquire, especially investment banks, will acquire smaller exchanges. That's sort of my side chain of this argument. I actually think Coinbase probably won't get acquired. There might be some interest, I don't know, but I think investment banks will acquire smaller crypto exchanges and build those into their systems as opposed to building them from scratch, because there's a lot of different things they need to learn. This happened at Robinhood. Robinhood is an investment platform, but they've recently bought in 2024 a crypto exchange, and they're implementing that into their platform. So that's a smart move, especially by like a broker like that. But I think investment banks will end up doing that, especially if they're retail facing. Number 17, 25 plus Bitcoin companies, Bitcoin/crypto companies go public or announce they're going public in the USA. Yeah, I definitely see that happening. I mean, the public markets are incredibly important for funding. There's benefits to being a private company. There's benefits to being a public company. And I think they'll want to become a public company in the frenzy of a serious bull market. So if we see that this is a bull market, that we see that 2025 is a good year for Bitcoin, we will see more companies publicly or go and announce that they will become public companies for sure. 18, Saylor and MicroStrategy get blamed by some economists for causing instability in the treasury market by creating a better place for fixed income to park their money. Well, right now, what's interesting about this is the convertible bond market is different than the fixed income market. Yes, they're both bonds. They both do have a fixed income component to them, the percentage rate that they pay. But they're kind of two different buckets of bonds. There's people who are forced to buy just fixed income products, and there's people that are forced to buy convertible bond products, and there's people with the ability to buy either. I mean, economists are going to blame MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor for a lot of things. Better place to park for fixed income. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't really see this as being a thing. Like, there's different buckets of bonds and different things that bond buyers will want to buy. Of course, they want high return on their position. So yeah, buying MicroStrategy bonds makes sense, especially if MicroStrategy issues a fixed product. A fixed product is really not as just like an interest rate with a bond, like a corporate bond, is really not that appealing to bondholders, like unless it's a high percentage, right? And they want something that's stable. So do they deem MicroStrategy as stable plus the interest rate attractive? I don't know. I think the convertibility bonds, like the convertible bonds, offer a lot more than like a fixed income product from MicroStrategy. So maybe I'm misunderstanding this a little bit, but I don't think that's really going to be the case. Nigel Farage becomes the first pro-Bitcoin PM of UK. Nigel Farage, I got to Google this guy. I don't even know. Let's see. Okay. He's a British right-wing politician born in 1964. I'm not familiar with the guy. Looks like a real G. Who knows? Yeah. So basically, he's predicting that this guy's going to become the prime minister of the United Kingdom. I have no idea. I'm not gonna go on Polymarket or Kalshi and bet on this one. That's for sure. 20. MSTR becomes a global top 100 company by market cap. Yeah, definitely. I think they're in the top 200 right now. Global. You know, in the US, they're really high up there, and top 100 company, they probably need to double their market cap to get into that. Let's see what the market cap. So to hit this, they need the market cap of 146 billion. They're definitely going to hit this. This is just no questions asked, obvious to me, and that's to beat Honeywell, which makes thermostats and I think like defense stuff, weapons, I believe. So yeah, I think MicroStrategy is going to get higher than 146 billion next year. Yeah, that's an easy one. 21 here. I know this is a long video. We're trying to get through them all here. 21. By the end of this bull run, Bitcoin will have become so big that central banks will have to step in to soften the bear market because the contagion will be too much. Bitcoin equals too big to fail. Now, what's very interesting about this is they cannot print Bitcoin, right? They can only print dollars. People have to accept dollars to bail out Bitcoin if Bitcoin becomes too big to fail, right? That's kind of what would be seen here. So central banks would have to prop up Bitcoin's price so that the contagion doesn't happen, doesn't affect all the other industries and things intertwined and connected with Bitcoin. Could we see this? Maybe. I sure hope not. I don't know. It's an interesting idea, though. It's something to maybe think a little bit deeper on. They would probably let a bear market happen and not try to soften it, and maybe bail out some of the other companies, maybe, that would need to shore up their balance sheet. So in that way, maybe they'd bail out Bitcoin in a sense. Not directly, but I think indirectly they would maybe try to help some banks that got involved with Bitcoin or something like that. Whereas before, they're basically not helping these banks like, Silvergate and Signature. They just kind of like take over and force them to close down because they're tied in with Bitcoin, or more specifically crypto, actually. All right, well, those are 21 predictions. I went through them all. I know this was a long video. Thanks for staying with it. If you have, love to hear your thoughts on these as well. Go check out @brandbtc. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on the next one.